Hello everyone, this is Neha Tulsyan from Crescent Creation. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm creating this fun slimline coffee theme card using Not Too Shabby Shop Pumpkin Spice Season Kit. This kit is currently out of stock, but you can get the paper pad and the ephemera packs separately, which I will link in the description box below. This kit also comes with a stamp set, and these are the images from the stamp set that I have stamped on a copic friendly cardstock, and now I'm using my copic colors to color these images. You also get these two eye images that you can stamp on these pumpkins or the coffee cup and make them even more cuter. I usually color my pumpkin orange, but today I thought of trying a different color combo. So here I'm using some Y markers to color my first pumpkin. I'm using Y28, Y26 and Y21 copic markers here. I added the shadows using Y28, which is my darkest color. Then I blended those using Y26 and lastly came in with Y21, which is my lightest marker, and blended everything out. And here I'm just going back and adding a second layer of color and using my darkest marker to add some dot details, blending that out using my medium color, which is Y26, and lastly coming in with Y21 and blending everything out. Adding some blush to the cheek using RV02 copic marker. For the stem part, I'm using E89, E87 and E84 copic markers here. And for the leaf, I'm using YG99, YG97, YG93 and YG91 copic markers. Now to add a little more depth to this image, I'm using a darker shade of pencil color and just enhancing those shadows, which will immediately step up this image. I'm using one of my Prismacolor pencils here. You can use any pencil that you have in hand. And here I'm just going to show you the difference. I added the color pencils only to the left side of the pumpkin, and you can see that the left side of the pumpkin looks more defined compared to the right side. Here I'm adding those shadows on the right side of the pumpkin too, and then I'll go ahead and add some shadows to the stem and the leaf. This is definitely an extra step and requires a little bit of time, and I don't do this with all my images, but sometimes some images just looks too adorable to not add the special effects. I colored my next pumpkin similarly off camera, but I used orange color instead of the Y markers to color that pumpkin. And now for my coffee cup, I'm using some toner gray markers here. I'm using T4, T2 and T0 copic markers to color the cup. Next I'm using some BG markers to color the sleeve of the coffee cup. I'm using BG15, BG13, BG11 and BG10 copic markers here. There was a lot of orange, brown, yellow kind of color going on this card, and I wanted to bring in a little bit of aqua color. So I decided to color the sleeve here using some BG markers, and later I'll add aqua color base to my card and bring everything together. To color the coffee in the cup, I used E31 and E30 copic markers. I added some dot details while coloring with my darkest marker, and that finishes the coloring of my coffee cup. Next, I'm using my black gel pen and adding details to the eyes of both the pumpkin, and I'm also using my white gel pen to add highlights to all the images. Next, I'll use my scan and cut off camera to cut these images, and now I'm going ahead and working on my background. Here I have a 3x8 piece of white cardstock and I'm applying tape all over it. I chose few of the pattern papers from the pumpkin spice paper pack and cut them into 1-inch strips, and here I'm just going ahead and gluing them down on that piece of white cardstock at an angle to create my background. When I'm not sure what pattern papers to use and I like more than one, I try to create a pattern out of the pattern papers, and this is one of my favorite ways to do it. Here I'm using my scissors and trimming off the excess pattern paper that's hanging off the cardstock. There was a little bit of white space left on this background, so I went ahead and glued one of the trimmed piece of pattern paper here, trimming off the excess, and that finishes my background. For my card front, I have a craft cardstock that measures 3x8 inches, and I'm applying walnut stain distress ink here. I'm using my full coverage blending brush here and applying ink all over the cardstock, concentrating the ink more towards the top and then inking the sides. When I have a big space to cover and quick inking to do, I use my full coverage blending brushes. Once done inking, I'll smush some walnut stain ink onto an acrylic block, add some water, and splatter the whole background using my fan brush. Then I brought in some Copic white ink, diluted it with a little bit of water, and then again splattering the background using my fan brush. You can use any white paint that you have in hand. I just like the opaque look of this white Copic ink. Once done with the splatters, I'll just heat this background with the heat tool and then go ahead and glue this to my pattern paper background that we just created earlier. And as I said before, I'm going to add some aquacolor cardstock to my card base. My card base here measures 8.5 inches by 3.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead and glue the card front to my card base. And now you can see the 3 layers. The beautiful aqua border, and then the pattern paper, and lastly the craft cardstock on the very top. Next, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment using my MISTI tool. The sentiment is from the same stamp set and it says I love fall most of all, and I'm stamping it using some black ink. Now I'll go ahead and glue the images. I have glued my orange pumpkin directly using some liquid glue. The coffee cup and the other pumpkin I have glued using some foam tape. Here I'm using a gray marker and just adding some shadows beneath all my images. And now for the inside of my card, I'm using 2 of the pattern papers that we trimmed while creating the background. I try to save as much as pattern paper as I can, so I'm gonna use whatever I can on this card and then save the rest of it for later use. Here I'm also gluing one of the coffee mugs just on top of the pattern paper, and that's it, my card is all done. So this was my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this card tutorial. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I also created some mini slimline cards using this kit. If you're interested in watching that video, the video will appear on your screen now. Thank you for visiting. Have a nice day.